Hello, everybody. Welcome to Catching Up with Carl. I'm Carl Bauer, host of this show. Today, I'll be talking with two icons of sports in their respective schools. First, I'm with Jim Bell of the Shikellamy Braves. For many years, the name of Jim Bell meant Shikellamy Cross Country. He was a very good coach, a very successful coach at Shikellamy High School. His athletes were a force, not only in District 4, but statewide as well. And Jim is a character. Once you know to whom that voice belongs, you always know that Jim Bell is there somewhere. My second guest was a tremendous all-around athlete at Selinsgrove High School. This SEAL was a Division I athlete in 3 sports while he was in high school. He did his collegiate work in football at the University of Maryland, but he could have been a Division I athlete in wrestling and track and field as well. I'm talking about Marlin Van Horn. Enjoy both of these area men in this episode of Catching Up with Carl. Here are my interviews with Jim Bell and Marlin Van Horn. Hello, everybody. Welcome again. This is Catching Up with Carl. I'm Carl Bauer, and today we're talking with Jim Bell. Jim is the head coach of cross country at Shikellamy High School. Jim, thank you very, very much for joining us. I appreciate it all so much.
Carl, it's nice to see you and very nice to be here. I'm happy to be on the show here.
All right, I have a couple questions for you.
Uh-oh, don't make them too hard. I'm as dumb as I look.
They won't be hard. They'll be easy for you.
All right.
I'm not sure where you graduated from high school.
I am a 1967 graduate of Hickory High School in Hermitage, PA.
And that is near what big city?
3 miles from the Ohio border. It's a long way from here.
Yeah.
And lately, Hickory High's been doing pretty well statewide in track and field.
Did you do sports in high school?
Yes. I played basketball, JV basketball in 10th grade, and they started a track team there. And it was pretty good. The basketball coach became the head track coach. The head football coach was his assistant. They had a coaching staff. They had a young student teacher, I remember, who tried to coach us in distance events. They tried to make a coaching staff, and we had a team. It was a good start for Hickory High. That would have been the spring of 1965 when I was in 10th grade.
Well, that is so interesting because in my situation, the track team was started at Warrior Run High School when I was a freshman. I got involved right away, and that was my best sport. I love track and field. So you and I have that connection. You then went on to college. Where'd you go?
I ran track and cross country at Clarion University of Pennsylvania. Graduated, got my bachelor's degree in 1971.
And how did you ever get from the western part of the state to Shikellamy High School?
The placement program had listed Shikellamy as having an opening in their communication arts department. I drove the 3 hours from Clarion. I guess they hired me on the spot. I was a good-looking kid back in that day.
I'm sure you were. You're a good-looking guy right now.
Well, I used to be good-looking. I was appalled looking at that camera, I'm telling you.
So you came into Shikellamy, and did you get involved with sports coaching right then?
My first year of teaching, I remember my first day. My first day of teaching, Shikellamy had a cross-country meet schedule. I think Mount Carmel was involved and one other school, might have been Bloomsburg, a bunch of red uniforms, I remember. And at the end of the first day, I was supposed to be the guy who helped out by going to the top of the hill where I put down a cone and there was a big turnaround. And we ran across the bridge over there that nobody uses anymore over to what used to be the dump in Sunbury and up Kirshner's Hill on this. It was a pretty nice road, actually, but a huge hill. And yep, that's what I did. I was at the turnaround point at the top point of that hill with the cone. And that was my first day. I tried to encourage the chick boys to move up a little. They were getting beat, actually, to tell you the truth. They didn't respond well to my encouragement. They didn't want to run any faster. They were there to get in shape for basketball, I think. And
Sure.
I kind of figured that out after they didn't like my encouragement to move
So
up.
then you became head coach of Chickasaw Cross Country in 1973.
I believe that's correct. 1973.
Well,
Actually, I should say this. My wife of 39 years now, Helen Barsh at the time was the secretary in the main office at that time. And she told the administrators I was pretty good at this stuff and they should give me a chance to coach the team. And that's the truth about how I got hired as coach. I think they were pretty reluctant to hire me. I was a scrawny looking little kid. I think I weighed 125 pounds. And I was a long-haired hippie kid in 1973. I was a kid. I was 21 years old, teaching there in 71, and weighed 125 pounds. And had long hippie hair. I was a long-haired hippie. There were conservative, elderly, not elderly. Yeah, they were elderly gentlemen on. They didn't like my long hair.
So you started cross country in 1973. When did track and field become a part of your resume?
I was an assistant coach in the spring of 72 to Bill Gallagher, who was the head boys track and field coach. There was no girls team at Chick at that point. And I take pride in being involved in starting girls track and field. It was either 80 or 81. I'm getting the years mixed up. It was all a long time ago. And we had a nice, successful team there.
Well, it was
about the events pretty well. Athletic girls at Chick.
Oh, that's always been the case. But I can relate to you. I know those years when there were no girls' sports. If you wanted to be involved in sports when you were a girl, you did cheerleading. That was the only thing available.
Yeah, back in the day. I remember in cross country, we would go to the District 4 championship on the grounds of the Danville State Hospital. If you remember those days, Carl.
Right. Sure.
And Shamokin and Williamsport had teams, and we just didn't. We got a girl or two who wanted to run. Colleen Epler at the time, Colleen Roots, now a physics teacher at Chickasaw High School, ran, I recall, back in the day, one of the first to come out and run with our team. And things have developed from there. We had an outstanding girls team this year, overshadowed by even better teams in our league. I want to salute the Warrior Run girls in particular for winning their state championship. Their story is like this. 2 years ago, they were 5th in the state in girls AA, which is a good accomplishment right there. 1 year ago, they were 3rd in the state because they stuck together. And this year, I was happy for them. Led by their number 1 runner, Lauren Trapani, who was outstanding from way back in 7th grade, I remember, for them. I felt good for Coach Dufresne and the Warrior Run defenders. Congratulations to them. I want to make sure I mention that. Also, of course, our league is so competitive. How about those Lewisburg Green Dragon boys winning 2 state titles in a row? Congratulations to Coach Hess and the Green Dragons there.
Well, this part of the state has really been blessed. They've had so much good running in the last few years. But I have a question for you as a running coach. Most coaches use running for their punishment. You didn't do this right? Go run a couple laps. You use it as your sport. What kind of motivation do you have to make kids decide, this is not my punishment, this is my sport? How do you do that?
Yeah, they have T-shirts with slogans on them. Our sport is your sport's punishment. I try to tell the kids that they need a more cerebral, mature interpretation of what running is. It's not torture. And I know that beginning runners, they all associate running with throwing up at the end of the run. And they do it to themselves, I realize. And I actively get involved in trying to help kids struggling at the finish line from all of the teams, my own and the other teams. I try to help kids, hey, calm down. Some girl, I recall specifically, she threw up at the end of her race, and I'm telling her what to do, not to drink some water, but not too much, or you'll just throw it up again. And I told her, you're doing this to yourself. So just calm down. You'll be all right. And I think I gave her pretty good advice. So I guess I said, hey, this is not torture. You have to learn. You have to do the runs. I don't want to give away my secrets. And you have to enjoy doing them. You have to enjoy it. So just blue skies, I point out. Beautiful air today on nice wet air days mostly. This is good air. The sky's blue. Let's enjoy all this and calm down and enjoy the run and have fun. Hey, distance running is a game for people approaching people between the ages of 25 and 30. Young people compared to us, but much older people compared to these high school kids. The high school kids can, I think some of them are smart enough to figure it out. Yeah, this isn't torture.
Well, I've noticed that about you in all the years I've watched you coach, and I know other coaches appreciate the encouragement that you give. That's certainly part of who you are.
Well, I guess I'm a loud encourager there. And yeah, I've had a couple little old ladies. Oh my God, this was 20 or more years ago. These two little, I'm not a big, at Penn State University. These two little old ladies come up to me and say, oh, we enjoy you so much, because I was the loudest coach there as well. And I said, what do you mean? Where are you guys from? Well, we're from State College, and we hear you encouraging your kids so much. And I kind of like that. I said, well, they get it. I'm trying to help everybody push themselves.
Well, you've been coaching for a long, long time. Besides coaching, do you have other hobbies that you enjoy?
I gave up announcing. I'm the PA announcer for Shikellamy boys basketball, or I was for like 40 years. And I kind of gave that up this year because there were younger men in place that could be as enthusiastic as sounding as I am. And so hey, let's let these younger fellows take over here as the announcer. So I kind of gave that up. I also am an oldies DJ, and I have a lot of fun playing oldies songs.
Wow.
In fact, oldies song. I was watching New Year's Rockin' Eve or whatever. I don't know which show I was watching, but they had young dancers on the rooftop in New York City, and they were dancing to the song "Higher Ground" by Stevie Wonder.
Right.
Which song I played at Shikellamy introductions for years, and everybody looked around and said, what is this? It's not this the modern rap stuff. It's just, and I said, hey, young New York City kids, this New Year's Eve, I'm talking, just a couple weeks ago, they're dancing to Higher Ground. I loved it. Oldies, rock and roll. I play both kinds of music, rock and roll.
Well, you're speaking my language. I love that kind of music as well.
I get a lot of that. There's people who, yeah, I'm with you on that. And there's some younger people. What is this?
All right, I have a final question for you, Jim. What do you see as happening in the spring? Are we going to have spring sports this year?
I'm an optimistic person. I have a vaccine scheduled for February 3rd. I'm going to get my first vaccine, and I feel privileged. I got it on the, I'm over 65 years of age. You can tell by looking at me. So because of things like that, I am optimistically thinking we might actually have a spring sports season. And looking back at the fall, I was very pleased with how our Shikellamy Invitational, they told me in the PHAC, you're not allowed to have it. And then they changed their mind. I said, have it. And so we set it up. We made a few COVID mitigation things. We spread out the start line boxes and spacing in between the teams. We had 2 heats of, we didn't have any JV races to reduce the numbers of people. Certainly didn't want to be the meet director for some kind of super spreader event, but we ran the 1, 2, 3 runners from each team in heat 1 and the 4, 5, 6, 7 runners in heat 2. And I want to say my buddy Jeff Brandt, my colleague and competitor coach, a veteran coach at Danville High School and a successful one, suggested it to me, and I kind of went with it. It worked great. I was really happy with how the meet went down this year. So if we could have that last fall, I think here in the spring now, we might be able to have a spring sports season.
I certainly hope so. I missed that so much, as I'm sure you did this past spring.
I realized the preciousness of each season. I felt really bad for those boys who graduated and girls who graduated a year ago. They had their senior season taken from them by the COVID. It's a loss. And the preciousness of this season is brought home to me now at Shikellamy boys team. Just to mention 2 fellows, we have a senior 15-foot pole vaulter. That's like an athletic kid.
Yeah.
And behind him, we have a 14-foot pole vaulter. And he's also a senior. It would be a shame if those 2 blessed athletes lose their senior season. So I optimistically think we can have the season. And I want to have it for guys like that.
Well, let's certainly hope so. Jim, I want to thank you very much for being here on Catching Up with Carl. It's been a lot of fun talking to you.
Someday I'll catch up with you, Carl. It's nice to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
I'm going to be talking with a man that some of you have heard of. He was a great Selinsgrove athlete. His name is Marlin Van Horn. Marlin, thank you for being with us on Catching Up with Carl.
Carl, glad to be with you and the opportunity to talk a little bit about the old times.
Well, we're going to start with your high school years. You were a 3-sport star. I'm not saying you were just an athlete. You were a 3-sport star. Let me start with wrestling. You finally ended up as a 2nd place winner at the PIAAs.
Yeah, I had to default in the finals against a guy by the name of Jack Campbell. Jack ended up winning 3 NCAA tournaments at Big Springs, in the college ranks. But I had torn a groin in the finals, and I was beating him 4-1. I had to default, and I had bigger things coming down the road. So, basically losing that match was really tough because, believe it or not, wrestling was my 3rd sport. And I don't know if you know this, but they did put me in the Hall of Fame for wrestling. It's actually the only place I've been put in the Hall of Fame. But to me, I looked at it as my 3rd sport. But it was it's a great Pennsylvania sport. And I had great success, learned a lot, and I used it in my other sports.
Sure. It would certainly help with your hands and your hand motions in football and controlling the other guy. I'm sure that was something that you were grateful for later when you moved on. Who was your coach at that time?
So it was Richard Smoker. We call him Dick Smoker.
Sure.
I was fortunate. When you talk about my coaches, I had 3 outstanding people to guide me, and Smoker was a legend, no doubt.
There's no question. He had such great rapport with the fans in the stands. It was obvious when you saw him coaching that his athletes really appreciated what he did. All right, let's move on to the second thing, because it's near and dear to my heart. Football. You're big. You're strong, quick. You had a great coach there too.
Yep. Bill was. Bill and I had a great relationship. We had a different relationship, but Bill motivated me every day. He knew he needed to push the right buttons with me, and Bill was very good, as a lot of my coaches were there at Selinsgrove, of getting the best out of his players, and that was our best part of our relationship.
That, of course, is Bill Scott. And I talked to him one time about you, as a matter of fact, because I knew, here's where I'm headed. I'm headed to the track situation. I knew that you were such a great javelin thrower. I started hearing about you when you were a freshman, throwing 210 feet in the javelin. Is just unheard of. So I said, well, if he goes to Maryland, is he going to be throwing the javelin? He said, oh, he might fool around with the javelin a little bit, but he knows what he's there for. We're coming to football. Football certainly has been very, very good to you.
Yes, it has. It's afforded me a scholarship. I mean, I had scholarship offers for all three sports, but football is a unique sport, and it captured me from the very beginning. And going to University of Maryland, playing in the Big 33, I was the MVP of that year, the Big 33. In those games, there's tremendous players on both sides. We played Ohio that year, and football is one of those things that I couldn't get enough of, and and I continued that over to college at the University of Maryland.
Well, the coach Bill Scott really he was at Warrior Run for 1 year. That's how I got to know him. And then he moved on to Selinsgrove and did wonderful things there. But now let's talk about track and field. You certainly had an outstanding team throughout your entire career at Selinsgrove.
Yeah, I never lost a track meet, and I was part of the beginning part of the longest winning streak in dual meet history in the country, and it's still the longest. It's over 200 straight dual meets. I forget exactly what the exact number is, but again, I had another outstanding coach, Jim Taylor, there. Jim was a special person, still is a special person to me. But I get a little emotional when I think about Jim. But I broke the national record my freshman year, and that was probably kind of the big moment for me to announce to people that I was going to be an athlete to deal with in our area. And a guy named Terry Bradshaw used to own that record before I broke it out of Louisiana. And then as I was doing that, I was kind of toying with the discus. The shot was the other event that I did well in. I have today, I think, more state medals than anybody that I know of in the state of Pennsylvania. I've got 8 state medals between wrestling and track. I got 3 seconds. I said 2 seconds in the shot. I got 2 seconds in the javelin and a gold in the javelin. And I got a 4th, and there's a reason for that, a 4th in the shot my senior year at States, and a 4th in the discus, believe it or not. That was the time I told you I tore that groin. So I threw track that year on one leg. I literally threw on one leg because I could not plant my left foot. And I tried to score as many points in dual meets without thinking about going for records, because I just didn't have the ability to do that. So, that year I should have thrown over 240 that year. The kind of condition I was in. But I had to deal with that groin muscle. And so I actually threw the disc. I never took the time to learn to spin. I broke the school record in disc by just standing there without spinning.
Wow.
I took fourth in the state of Pennsylvania without spinning. And it might have been one of the more incredible things I think I've ever done. If you throw the disc and you're out there and you know about the disc, you know you get all your momentum by crossing over the circle.
Yes.
So for someone to just stand there in a power mode and throw basically 160 yards or feet, I should say, you know, it's so I took a lot of pride in that. My senior year was a little frustrating, even though I went to the Golden West. Jim and I flew out there to Sacramento to be a part of the best track athletes in the country. And again, on one leg, I came in second in the country.
Wow.
So frustration was there. The injury, you know, obviously not winning states, which I wanted to win in wrestling. My senior year, in a lot of ways, was very disappointing. Most athletes, that's the year you wait to get to and do things. You know, football, I had an outstanding year. You know, I wasn't injured, but you know, it is what it is.
It is what it is, but you have a lot of great memories, I'm sure. And, you know, when we don't win, we think somehow we've let ourselves down. But to accomplish what you did is just amazing. Let me talk a little bit more about that track team. You, of course, were picking up all the points in the throws, but you had a teammate who was truly outstanding, eventually went to West Point, Mike Fonestock, a sprinter, a hurdler. I think he still holds the school record in the high hurdles.
Yeah, Mike was a special athlete, Carl. And, you know, we were tough to handle because Jim was able to get, you know, the best athletes we could get out of the high school, which is a very small school, as you know. But, you know, Mike in the sprinting area, the relays, you know, the hurdles, all those things, and me in the weights, we pretty much had a lot of teams at a disadvantage because we were going to pick those points up. And, you know, why we were so good is we had a lot of depth. You know, a lot of my teammates, you know, they didn't get the big headlines, but we had a lot of other really good athletes, and we had depth that no one else had. And in that sport, if you can pick up second and third, even though you lose, you know, first in a dual meet, you're not going to lose much ground. And we were able to accomplish that. And sometimes we ever get first, second, and third because, you know, we had a lot of other good athletes besides Mike and I. So Mike and I had a great relationship. You know, he was a different kind of athlete than I was. You know, he was smaller, faster, and I was more the power. You know, I had a different role to play.
Well, you moved on then to University of Maryland. I'm sure you had offers from all over the country. Why did you decide on Maryland?
Yeah, you know, I did make an All-American team that they had that time in the country. So I was pretty much every school in the country had sent me invitations. I had all the big time name coaches back then. I mean, if you think about when I was being recruited, you know, you had the Bo Schembleckers, you had the Woody Hayeses, you had the Bear Bryants, you had the Jerry Claibornes at Maryland. I mean, you had the guys at USC. I mean, there were some unbelievable coaches in the country. I looked at Notre Dame strongly when Era was there, and I liked him. But Dan Devine kind of turned me off between us. If you watch that movie, Rudy, he was a little bit like that. And I needed, because of my my family life, I needed somebody like a Jerry Claiborne that was going to kind of take over and be my dad a little bit when I was there. And it was one of the key factors for me. I also didn't have the wherewithal to fly back from California or Florida, you know, so I had to pick some place that I could get home without getting on a plane. I mean, I never got on a plane until I actually took a recruiting trip. So for me, Maryland was a good place to be for a couple reasons. And I still think it's a great place to be for athletes out there today. Maryland sits in an unbelievable spot in the country. It's, from an economy standpoint, it is a great place to go to get an education and get a job. And I'm a proof point to that. I did kind of narrow it down to Penn State, Ohio State, Maryland. There's probably a lot of people in Pennsylvania would have wished I've gone to Penn State, but to be honest with you, it was a little too close to home. And I love Paterno. I love the whole thing. I've probably been to more games there than any place in college. And then I came home a few times to play there. Unfortunately, we didn't win any of those games, but we gave it our best shot. But I chose Maryland because it was the place I knew I wanted to be, about 3 hours from home. And I was looking to honestly get a little space. And Pennsylvania, if you're an athlete or someone like that, it gets a little smothering at times, if you will, to live in those small communities like Selinsgrove. Even though, I love the people in Selinsgrove, they've been nothing but supportive to me. But as you get older, I think sometimes you find, like we find this in Maryland, a lot of kids leave Maryland and go to other places because they want to get out, they want to do things, and that's kind of how I was. So,
well, you certainly are not alone in going from Selinsgrove to Maryland. I'm thinking Kelly Smith.
Yep.
Thinking Spencer Myers. We talked about him.
Yep.
Marshall Doberman also went from Selinsgrove to Maryland. So
Yep.
It's a good draw. It's close enough, as you said, but not too close.
I used to have a lot of people come from Selinsgrove to the games, which meant tremendous thing to me. And like I said, Selinsgrove will always be my home. And the people of Selinsgrove have been very embracing to me and supportive. So for me to be able to share, my time in Maryland with them was special for me.
We had a great career at Maryland. I remember hearing your name all the time. And for the position you played, the line, you don't often hear those names, but I heard your name a lot when you were a player. Why is it that you never went into the pros?
So, in my career there, I should have been a linebacker. I was a natural linebacker, but at Maryland, I could help the team. And, today's athlete's a little different, but when I got there, the best place for me to be was on the line for us because of my strength, my quickness. And so I did that. So I played out of position for basically 4.5 years. And in doing so, I gave up size and I was able to attain, I still one of the all-time leaders of minus yards behind the scrimmage. I'm in the top 3 or 4 for sacks. But eventually, playing inside there, injuries will occur. And, I had a freak injury, my senior year. I was preseason All-American going into that year. And we were playing Villanova and Howie Long, believe it or not, at that time. And, I just planted the foot and it was on a cutback and had a severe knee injury. After that knee injury, I was never the same player, Carl. And as an athlete, you know that.
Oh, yeah.
If you're in tune with your body, like most athletes are, I knew I was never going to be the same player as much as I rehabbed it as I was before. And so when I came back my senior year, I was all conference, all-mention, all-American that year, but I didn't have, honestly, as good a year as I had, my junior year. And when I looked at the draft at that time, remember, we weren't making the money they make today.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Right. So, honestly, some of the career jobs that we had in our area in Maryland, I could potentially get to where I needed to get to very quickly and sustain that longer by, going in the real world and getting a job, as I say. But so I consult with my doctor. I talked to Jim Taylor, which is a very close person to me in my life. And the best thing for me, health-wise, was to move on with life and use my degree. And that was the toughest, probably personal decision I ever had to make.
I'm sure, because you're giving up, the recognition, the bright lights and everything to work in an office. So what are you doing now?
So, I was fortunate. I started out an engineering degree. I migrated to what we call industrial technology at University of Maryland. Maryland's got a great engineering school, but it's probably more well known for its computer science. So I had one of the earlier computer science degrees that we started calling, back then we had paper tape, we had, basically big calculators. We really didn't have, as we would look at computers today. So it was called industrial technology. So, but it was in the College of Engineering. And so my first job out of college was with a company called Olivetti. And Olivetti was really the largest robotics company in the world, and out of Italy. And so I started there, and because of where I lived, the federal government was my customer. And so I started learning about the federal government in detail, how they work. I then went to a company called Exxon, the largest company in the world at that time. Became very successful there, was the top performer in the world for them. And then I moved on to companies. And I'm at a company today that's called Pure Storage. And Pure Storage is the predominant enterprise storage company in the world. We're taking large data centers and shrinking them down. We're taking, performance levels and decreasing the response, or increasing the response time by tenfold. So I'm fortunate. I work on some of the things today that honestly I get such pride out of. One of my biggest customers, my main customers, Health and Human Services. Cancer Institute, CDC, FDA, NIH, and I'm in some of the largest projects, speeding up development and cancer research with our solutions. And COVID-19 is a lot of the stuff in the vaccine stockpile area is being run on our stuff. And I basically meet with the government and help them streamline the infrastructure they have in today's modern data experience, as we call it. And it's very exciting. I go in with the knowledge I have and the team I have, and we make a difference. And to me, being able to go and compete against other companies that are the largest companies in the world as well, I'm back doing what I did in sports. I'm competing, and I've been competing all along. I've never stopped competing in my life, and sports gave me that. Sports gave me, and I always say, I would hire an athlete any day because I know what's built inside them, and all we got to do is rechannel that energy and that competitiveness in a healthy way, to be able to take your products and put them in the best light against your competitors. And, so I was able to take my passion for competing in sports and make that transition to real life in business. And I'm a very fortunate person, financially, mentally, and from a family perspective, which is the most important thing to me. And I guess that's kind of mostly what I would say.
Well, your life has come full circle then. Athletics, competing, transferring that to your real life now. And Marlin, I want to thank you so much for being here on Catching Up with Carl. It's been a blast talking to you.
I want to say hello to Central PA, and special hello to Selinsgrove.
Thank you very much for being with us. I'm Carl Bauer in Catching Up with Carl.